Hey guys, welcome back. A few things before we get started. Don't forget about our promo codes if you're looking to try a new CBD. Hopewell Farm CBD is amazing. You get 10% off all their products with promo code Journey to Truth 10. That link is below in the description. I highly recommend it. I use it every day. It's incredible CBD. It's some of the best I've tried. If you are looking for some EMF protection, our friend Mason Fury makes these beautiful orgone pyramids. This is the largest one. They come in a number of different sizes. His website is below in the description as well. You can get 10% off of these with promo code Journey to Truth, all caps. And then the Omnia Radiation Balancer, which you can see right here on the microphone. We have it on our computers, our phones. It's a EMF protection, but it really doesn't block the radiation. It balances it and harmonizes it into something that's actually beneficial for your body. And they sell these pendants to actually balance and harmonize your own energy field. There's some really next level technology, great products. A lot of people seem to love them. You get 10% off those with promo code Truth, all caps. And you get 20% off all of our Teespring merchandise with promo code 20 and back. And this is one of our new shirts, Activate DNA. It seems to be a favorite for a lot of people. So go take advantage of that sale while it's still going on, but we'll probably just keep it going indefinitely. That out of the way. Today, we are joined by Jen and Brian Berryhill. Some of you guys may know them from the ESETI conferences. They've participated every year, playing some absolutely beautiful music. They presented there a few times. They used to work a lot with Chief Golden Light Eagle. We've had him and Jen on the show. Unfortunately, he has since transitioned, but his spirit is with us today. I can assure you that. Absolutely. If you look hard enough, you might be able to see him behind them right now, hanging out. But welcome to the show, guys. I'm excited to get into this. You guys obviously have been doing some great work. You guys run a sweat lodge up where you live, and just the star knowledge, the ancient wisdom, the spirit animals, like all of that type of information is really crucial, because that's the direction I feel like we're moving back to, because we've gotten away from living in harmony with nature. And I just kind of want to cover that and how we can get back into that way of life. And I think it's extremely important right now. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Appreciate it. It's great to be here with you guys. Thank you so much for the invitations. Be here with my wife and be able to talk to you guys, catch up from last time we saw each other out there at ESETI. So, and thanks for the invitation.
Yeah, thank you. Really great to see you guys again, and excited for this conversation today.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
it's going to be beautiful.
too.
I know it. And actually, the last time I saw you was in Florida for the solstice in December. And we did that ceremony on the solstice. And if you remember, we had a day sighting. We had that ship come. It was there for a while, and it was pretty awesome, I thought. And I just think that proves the importance of even doing ceremonies, because they show up, they understand, they appreciate when we put in the effort and we take advantage of those days. So I thought that was really awesome. But I'll turn it over to you and let you guys kind of introduce yourselves a little better, and let us know how you got into this work.
Sure.
You want me to start?
Sure.
Well, gosh, I know it's like, where do you start?
Right.
We've been on a pretty hyperdrive path. So I think our journey really, really did start on a spiritual level when our son arrived. So we have a son named Blaze, and the way that he got his name was kind of what really catapulted us onto a new path. We weren't sure if we were having a boy or a girl. We were letting it be a surprise. And the day that baby was coming, it was kind of a cloudy, overcast day. And we're in the room there at the hospital with the, west facing window, and the clouds broke and a beam of light shined in the window onto the head as baby's head is crowning.
Wow.
And it was like this miraculous, moment, and so we're like, I said, like, if it's a girl, we should name her Sunny or Sunshine. And Brian's like, if it's a boy, we should name him Blaze. And so I was a boy. And so we have this amazing star child that, he came into the world, and we had to get our act together. Like there was no more screwing around, and our lives completely did a 180. And, you know, during that kind of time frame, you know, as a soon to be mom and seeing the state of the world, you know, I was in a lot of fear. And, you know, we were just like, you know, how can I bring a child in this really chaotic world? And, you know, this is 13 years ago, and holy crap, you know, it got really crazy.
Yeah.
So, you know, we discovered ceremony. We discovered learning sacred ways. And then we eventually met Chief Golden Light Eagle at a Star Knowledge conference. And that really is, you know, like the root of where we're coming to you now from, you know, because we learned so much working with him, working in the ways of ceremony and learning the star knowledge that he's been teaching for the last 25 years, and really integrating that into our walk. And it's just been life-saving, honestly. And, you know, we're still really dedicated to continuing the legacy of what he brought through, because we need this work. We need this information. And without it, I don't know how I can stay sane in such a crazy world that we're still in. So I don't know, you want to share more on that?
Sure. Yeah. Like coming, you know, Jen and I used to have a company, and we sold t-shirts all over the country. And we met some people that knew Chief Golden Light Eagle and had been doing ceremony with him. That's how we kind of, you know, heard about him in the first. So, you know, we were busy, we were married and out there, you know, kind of living like rock stars, you know, going to all these rallies. And it was a lot of fun because everybody's on vacation. So anyway, that was just proving to be a little too fast of a lifestyle for parenting. Who would have thought it? So anyway, after meeting Chief Golden Light Eagle, getting a chance to do my first sweat lodge, really it was intriguing and opened a lot of doors. And I really didn't ever see myself actually doing ceremony or to the level of what I have learned over the years, you know, with all the time that we spent with them. He would encourage me so much over the years to, Brian, hey, learn these songs, you know. He was starting to push that with me. I didn't feel like I could sing, didn't know the words. It's hard understanding a different language. And I'm like, I don't sing well. I don't know really how to drum. He's like, Brian, it's not about you. These are for the people. And it just kind of helped shift my focus about what we were doing and what my contribution mattered. Come together and do ceremony. Everybody's presence has a signature and a vibration, or we're coming from whatever experience we've just had or whatever things are in our field. And so it all affects ceremony. So when we do ceremony, we like to do as much as we can to help kind of clarify and clean that space so that as people come, you know, they're not thinking about stress and worry. You don't want to bring those things ceremony. You want to just be very high vibration anyway, it was really kind of what that hook was that brought us in and made us feel like we belonged and opportunity to spend that much time with him was really incredible.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
That's amazing.
I think the very first time I ever met you was at ECETI, and I don't know if you were presenting or if you were just saying a little something on one of the panels. I don't remember exactly. I think it was a panel, but you were sharing an experience you had out on the field there, and you were trying to connect, you know, like everyone else, you're trying to connect with an ET or a craft out there. And then you had gotten a message like, why are you trying to connect with us? You should be trying to connect with the people around you and the nature. And that was so profound. It stuck with me because it's so true. So many people are like looking for that star connection, right? But we stopped trying to connect with the people in our lives. And
yeah.
Right.
It was a very humbling experience, you know, because, you know, sometimes when we hear those thoughts, or we'll ask, or we'll send a message like that, and we might get an answer, and sometimes we don't know if that's just our own thinking or our own answer kind of thing, but it just came strong because I was in this loving place. I was just really like, oh, hey, this welcome. You're so welcome here. It'd be beautiful to meet you. You can come down here. This is a place of love. And they were like, why are you even trying to talk to us when you haven't tried talking to the relatives right next to you? And it didn't make me just think of the people around me. It made me think of trees and the plants and the stones, and there's consciousness levels.
Yeah,
all of those things. And I heard that for a while before I actually had some experiences that were like, oh, that's what they mean. No wonder they understand and can talk about these things in ways, because it's real. And once you had that experience, you don't dismiss. It's one of those things that,
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Right. Exactly. And it's beautiful. And even remembering that everything has a consciousness, because we do that. We forget that. You walk outside and how many people are actually talking to the trees and the plants. I know a lot of people do, and the animals, but there's a number of people that don't. And even me, when I know it's possible, and sometimes I do, there's other days where I'm just cruising around focused on what I'm doing, and you're just walking by all of that stuff without appreciating it. So taking the time to just acknowledge it. And that goes back to some of the old Native American teachings where, their school was nature. They were sent out into the field and told to have a conversation with this rabbit or whatever. And they didn't understand as a child, but as they grew up, they would understand that the rabbit was actually telling them something, and they learned how to communicate with the animals in nature. And that's one of the things I wanted to get into also is the spirit animals, because I know that's huge, doing the work that you do. So would one of you guys mind touching on that aspect of it?
Well, I'll just say real fast what I've seen with some of these children, that grow up with adults that aren't filtered and aren't all walled off and veiled. Those children tend to see things very early on, and then they kind of don't know what they're experiencing or seeing. And so cool parents are like, oh, that's just such and such. Don't pay any attention to it if you don't like it, or, so not like, oh, that's not there. They don't sit there and shut the children off. And so the children kind of already have a natural telepathy, if you will. And so when you have parents that aren't like, oh, that's crazy talk, and encouraging the child with what they're experiencing, then I see that developing that much more with them. So I just wanted to say that in response.
Right. And, I would imagine a lot of us can actually identify with, maybe having forgotten our connection on a telepathic level. And so, a lot of the star knowledge teachings kind of go hand in hand with, awakening that remembrance again and helping us to remember how to be telepathic again, because that is the original language, and that's the language of the star nations. And so, to have contact that makes sense and is meaningful, there needs to be a little bit of an ability there, clairvoyance, clairaudience, telepathy, and all of that needs to turn back on again. And so a lot of our focus is that work. And, there's amazing animals that come as earth guardians to help us with that activation, the reactivation, the remembrance. And I remember when we were on the show with you, Tyler, and, Chief and I were sitting with you, you talked about the visit that you had with the deer.
The albino deer.
Yeah. Oh my God, that was so powerful. And, he shared with you just the power of not giving your heart away.
Yes, I remember that message vividly. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, there's simple teachings, but they have so much meaning. And we can really you know, we don't even have to be in nature to see a deer in order to be connected with nature. We can be in a meditation and we can call upon that spirit animal to come in and, you know, ask them for some clarity, ask them for some help. You know, the deer is like that power to be. And, you know, they work with our entire chakra system that, you know, deals with the emotional body. And so, you know, we can, once we're, you know, more, you know, able to travel in our existence on a neutral, like, place, like 0 point, you know, where we're able to navigate our emotions really in a healthy way, you know, we can begin to emanate the colors from our chakras to help other people in their processes and, you know, kind of help tune them up a little bit too. So, you know, it becomes like the symbiotic relationship, much like a natural deer would have with us. We can start to have that with another human. And so like, we're all in this together and we're all doing, it's like a ripple effect. So, you know, it's so fascinating to me. And that's just one example. You know, there's many earth guardians that we speak of when we work with the star knowledge. And so as we're working with it each month, there's one earth guardian that we are working with for that entire moon cycle. Mm-hmm. And currently in this moon cycle right now, we're like, we call it the 10th dimension, and we're working with the bear. And the bear is such a powerful, like animal to come in and help us right now, because they work with opening the gates that have been closed. So like the gates of the mind. Mm-hmm. And it's really about facing your fears and being brave enough to take on what scares you the most. Mm-hmm. You know, what is your biggest challenge? And the bear can come in and help us with that. And so, you know, as we're doing more conscious work with it, more becomes clearer, we get a greater understanding, and then, you know, it's like totally leveling up. And it's so perfect because I'm looking at your shirt and I see your DNA and I see the word activate, and that's exactly what the work is.
Oh, great shirt.
Yeah.
You designed it too.
Right.
That's
cool.
Awesome.
Cool. Put me down for one.
Yeah.
Well, we can certainly send you one.
Yeah, send you guys one.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's absolutely fascinating. And that was beautiful. Beautifully said.
Beautifully said.
And the one thing I noticed is that pay attention to the animals around you, because they're trying to give you a message most of the time. And sometimes we're not focusing on it, right? But if you stop and start observing them, they all have something to say. And we all have our phone, we all have the internet. And if you don't know and you don't know what to do, just Google it, look it up. And look up the meaning, the spirit meaning of seeing an owl or whatever animal or bird, whatever it was you just saw. But then eventually you won't need to look it up. You'll start to connect with that animal, and you'll know when you see him what that means for you in your life. It's something beautiful, but I just want to remind people to pay attention to that, because sometimes they're out there trying to get your attention, but you know, you're just too focused on something else.
Okay. You know, I'll share another experience with a stone. You know, because there's, you know, when you speak of these things, you might get like a woodpecker, right, is knocking and really catching your attention. And it's good to find, you know, that teaching and kind of go down that journey and do whatever reflections might speak to you around that. So when you hear of people that are talking about consciousness of stones and getting messages from stones, it's a little harder because they're not making some clicking audible thing going on, or and so it was elusive to me. But you know, we went and got stones and wood for Sweat Lodge one night, and Chief's brother John was with me, and I'm standing on top of this pile of rocks, 5,000 rocks, right? And I'm just trying to look for the right size stones to bring in for Sweat Lodge. Which one, John? You know, he throws it to me. You put that on your altar, and I'm about the size of a baseball, maybe a little bit bigger, right? It's like, okay, so set up the fire and put it on the altar, and Chief came out. I said, look at this stone that John said I should put on the altar. And Chief's eyes got real big. He says, oh, that's a good one. So you need to bring it into Lodge tonight and pray with it. So I did. I was the last one to come in Lodge, and I brought it in with me. So also pray with it. When you're done praying with it, put it in the bucket of water. You know, we have a bucket of water in the Sweat Lodge. You know, you used to put on the stones that get up in there. Anyway, so I put that stone in the bucket of water. We sang a song to honor the Stone Nations. So anyway, he said, "Oh, that stone was to give you a doctoring. So go ahead. He wants you to pull it out of the water, and it's going to heat up. Put it wherever on your body you feel like you need a doctor." So, okay, so water.
And the bucket of water is cold.
Oh yeah, it's cold water. 5-gallon bucket at Home Depot, right? So maybe full, it's got 10 inches of water in there. So I grab it, and it's just like grabbing a cold rock out of the pond or something. Oh, I started pulling it up, and while I was still underwater, that thing lit up in my hand, and it got so hot I could barely hold on to it. So by the time, what's going on here? And it took me a few long seconds to, oh yeah, I'm supposed to give myself a doctoring, and man, my neck kind of, oh yeah, that shoulder been dislocated. Oh yeah, the hernia. Geez, where don't I need? I just started rubbing this thing all over myself. But to have that experience, a stone that heats up on its own while it's submersed in water, and for you to have your hand on it, it felt like God touching, and that's really brought me to a new level of understanding the level of consciousness. And some of them are healing, doctoring stones. And Native Americans, or a lot of these Lakota people that we had the chance to spend time with, understood this, because they're fairly common. And so anyway, but sure,
right. Well,
that's amazing.
When we were in Florida, you handed me that stone. I still have it that I was holding because I wasn't feeling the greatest, and it was like extremely hot. And now I know where you got that from, but I remember it was like really hot at one point. It didn't make sense to be that hot because it was pretty cool out. But I believe in working with stones and crystals and all that stuff, and they have a consciousness as well. I had a dream recently that I was a time traveler, and I was using the local rocks to time travel because they store the memory of the entire history of that area. And so I would somehow connect with the rock, and I was able to go back to, or go to any point in time in that location. So it's really interesting to think of it that way, as also being like a time machine.
Well, they've been here longer than generations of people, and birds, animals. I mean, the rocks have seen everything. They know the full story. They know the truth. So that's part of the, when we bring those stones in from the fire into the sweat lodges, that's what we're honoring, is what they have to share with us, that ancient truth and knowledge. And it's cool, right? How the ancestors come in, because all of our bloodlines are DNA. Those are our ancestors. Those are our children. Well, we're going to care about them no matter if we've passed over. Energetically, they're part of us, right? And so our ancestors have that same love, and so they want to support us, even though they're crossed over. When we call in and ask for help, our ancestors know us better than anybody,
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So I want to kind of we talk about the star knowledge, the star teachings. Let's talk about the star people. Where all this stuff comes from. Ancient cultures all over the world were in communication with the star people, or ETs. They know they exist. They knew they exist. UFOs. It was all common talk, and it's depicted in hieroglyphs and pictographs everywhere, all around the world. What is your experience with seeing craft and being visited by these star people, or do you have experience like that, and what can you share?
Well, Brian's got some pretty amazing contact or experiences, we could say. And just to preface that, I feel like, we all have a little bit of a different way of how we receive or perceive connection and experience. For me, it's more on a telepathic level when I'm either in meditation or in sweat lodge, when we're calling in for what we're, the ceremonies. And so, it could be all kinds of different experiences in that way. But, to physically see them with your eyes, like for some reason, I don't always see what everybody else sees, but I see it in a different way, which is, like as light or energy or often colors. And, just the feeling, a very, very strong feeling of a presence. So I'll let Brian share his good stuff.
Well, and go ahead.
I was just before you go into that, that's a great point, because if we have this preconceived idea of what we want contact to look like, you might be disappointed. But like you said, it could show up in any number of ways, and you might see the energy or the light body of that craft when everyone else sees the physical craft, or whatever the case may be. And they could be communicating to you via an animal or whatever the case might be. So it might not look like what you want it to look like, but be open-minded enough to receive the message from anywhere.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Well, we all have different gifts, right? And I love what you guys are doing, and I applaud your podcast and trying to bring these types of topics around for people to at least hear of other people's experiences and engage the conversation, because there's so much reality. The more like we peel back the veil, the more we're just, gosh, I really don't think we're ready. A lot of us are ready for what's really out there. And I only say that just because, having that experience of the rock heating up in my hand, there's ceremonies where a man gets tied up and the spirits will untie that man. We've been in a number of those ceremonies and see that happen. When the spirits come in, a lot of times they come in and they will light up. So you see these things light up. I've seen the light orbs, which was how I first learned about the SETI Ranch, was like, gosh, 10 years ago. 10, 11 years ago. I think we just got done doing Sturgis. We were in Estes Park, and I started seeing these light orbs moving around, and Jen couldn't see them. But gosh,
I was pissed.
Oh, she was pissed. She was upset. She was dropping him. I was like, whoa! So anyway, that was kind of one of those first things, and that kind of led me to find James Gilliland and the East SETI Ranch just with a few days after that. But most recently, I had a really powerful experience, and when you've had some of these experiences, you're like, okay, if that's possible, anything's possible.
Right.
If that rock can heat up in my hand like that, anything is, because that defies any scientific, so there's things that are out there that we can't break down logic. So I'd had a couple pretty, awesome dreams about giants. And it was one of those that really stuck with me. And so it was the first day of Sundance, and this is early August. And it was the first morning, and we had to get up and get going pretty early. So I woke up at like 4:45. And so I went and sat in my truck for a minute, and I noticed a shooting star. And that was what was the meteor shower going on at the time?
The Perseids meteor shower was at that time.
Yeah. So I'm like, oh, yeah, what's going on? So it really made me want to, just pay more attention. And so I'm looking, and nothing's happening. I'm looking towards the east because it's still pretty dark. And I just think to turn my head to the north. And I did. And it was so big that I don't know how big it was. Let's just say I'm guessing a minimum of a mile long, but maybe upwards of 3 to 5 miles wide. I mean, this thing was cruising through the sky.
A craft. You're talking about a craft.
This was a craft.
Wow.
It was a scale, my jaw hit the ground. I mean, I looked around quick to see if anybody around was awake yet, and nobody was. Jen was actually in the tent. She was awake, but she was still in the tent,
And he didn't go, "Hey, Jen, come check this out."
Oh, I just freaked out. My jaw was on the ground. You never know how you're going to react when you see something like this. But if I had, it was hard to tell how far away it was and how high above the ground it was. This thing like I said, I'm guessing 3 miles. So, and I'm trying to be conservative and try and not over exaggerate this thing. If 3 miles, doesn't sound crazy enough, but it was like shaped like a capsule. It had a bunch of windows that look like starships, like the ones we would see up at Yosemite, the real bright ones.
Right.
You can tell the difference between the satellites that kind of faint, flying out, and the ones that'll power up and really, really good. But this thing had 50 to 100 all lined up like windows.
Wow.
Right above each
Inside
other.
of it.
Inside, like reflecting out. Like I watched it go behind a cloud, and it was reflecting light off the back of the cloud. It's so hard to describe what I saw, and maybe had a minute and a half of visibility while it went to the east and eventually went out of sight. But it was a cylinder, and it was almost like glass-like, but maybe chrome or reflecting the colors around it that gave it like a camouflage. I've seen some crazy things, but nothing even remotely close to that big.
Right.
It was really recent, a month ago.
That's beautiful. And
Wow,
what's interesting is I put a cylinder craft with windows on the thumbnail that
synchronicity,
like without even knowing that you had that experience.
What?
Yeah. If you see the thumbnail,
amazing.
you'll see I put it in the sky. I don't even know why I decided to.
That's why.
And it was so there's the stock.
I gotta look now.
Yeah, right.
There's the stock photo, and then I added this little cylinder craft UFO with windows, and if she can pull,
there it is.
yeah.
Dude. All right, so picture a lot like
That's
a
amazing.
whole nother row of windows underneath those, but the thing was
Massive.
easily 10 times, 20 times the size of that.
Wow.
To give you the perspective.
Wow.
I mean, it was huge. It was so
mothership.
That's
so cool that you put that on
That's
there.
hilarious.
And it was kind of more of a dark gray skies. There were some clouds.
right. Well, I think those ships are around more than we think every day. I feel like we've always heard if they decloaked, they uncloaked all the ships, it would just look like a Star Wars movie or something with just air traffic.
Yeah. And with as many experiences I've had, I mean, I was speechless, and one of the things that the chief would always say, he's like, hey, when you're out there, like watching the sky and you're looking for the ships and all of a sudden one will come and boom, and flash at you or something. Everybody goes, whoa. And he's like, you're calling the star people in. He's like, so they're coming and introducing themselves to you. Can you imagine if you went up and said, hi, my name's Tyler, and somebody, whoa!
Right.
He's like, try to get beyond that reaction. Oh, introduce yourself. Oh, hi.
Right.
I'm Brian, and just kind of take it simple.
So
that's a good mindset to have.
Right.
Definitely, yeah. A lot of people, they're purely seeing and reacting, and then they're not thinking about, they're picking up on our, everything.
They were watching me going,
yeah. Just frozen. Yeah.
There was nothing like, oh, hey, hi guys. It was just, if you saw a giant, like you
dumbfounded.
In the stream I had, I looked up and I realized it was two giants. I thought they were like trees and the tree trunks, but they really ended up being two giants standing next to each other. And as soon as I saw how tall they were, and they looked down at me right as soon as I realized they were giants.
Right.
Wow.
And
I just like, hi.
And giants are one of my favorite topics. There's evidence of them all over the world. The Smithsonian has admitted to, burying the evidence. We have old news articles, ancient buildings that have gigantic doors and steps that don't make any sense. So some people claim that, like the Egyptians, all of their statues and all their sculptures were built to scale, and it's not exaggerated. And some of them are gigantic. And the Native Americans talk about, the red-headed giants and stuff. And there's even like stories of them capturing them and taking them down. There's this whole myth and legend. We can say something.
Well, the skeletons that they found, like there's really old newspaper articles and
Right.
stuff that like showed it back then before it was super controlled, you know.
Yeah, the New York Times in the late 1800s or
1800s.
Late 1800s. You can find numerous articles that the New York Times would say.
They were finding them all over the world, but then the Smithsonian would always swoop in and like, oh, we're gonna take this, and then no one ever sees it again.
Dangerous stuff.
Yeah, it's dangerous to the narrative. That's what. Yeah, and then they try to do this. Oh, that's a myth. That's not real, you know. And they're described in all the ancient texts, the Bible and everything else, you know, like it's all over the place, just like everything else. It's like right in your face.
Yeah. And I've heard that they still exist in parts of inner Earth. Who knows? And that's something that the Star people or the Native Americans, they talk about a lot, is the inner Earth beings, the ant people and stuff in the Grand Canyon area. And a lot of their people were brought underground for safety, allegedly, during like whatever catastrophe was happening on the surface. Does that type of information ever come up in the work or the teachings that you guys explore? Or?
Just one comes to mind. I'm not really good at retelling this, but we did a visit, and it was Chief Golden Light Eagle, me, and two other people at the time, and we made a visit over to Chaco Canyon, and we were really tuning into the land there and the ruins and the kivas and just seeing what's there. And it's an old matriarchal society that used to live there, that according to what I'm remembering and that I heard is that they chose to go into Middle Earth. Like they chose to kind of exit this realm and move themselves inside, so to speak. But there's a video out there by Chief Golden Light Eagle. And I can send you guys the link because it's really fascinating. But he had a story where he actually visited some of the native people that were living near Chaco Canyon, and just, casually talking to these two people that had lived there their whole lives. And they were witnessing, this like kind of like cleanup, like you could picture like the Smithsonian people showing up, and they're putting bodies that they excavated into these boxes that they were going to transport somewhere else. And so when the trucks arrived to come pick up these boxes, this wind came, and it was like a little dust devil spun through, and the boxes literally like disappeared. They just vanished.
Yeah, Raiders of the Lost Ark kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Wow.
Exactly. That's amazing.
So he tells the story in the video, and it's pretty cool. I'll see if I can find it.
Yeah, that would be great to share.
Yeah, that would be.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
That stuff's always fun to listen to. It's exciting, and we know it existed if you feel into it.
Chief Brother Sherwin got a chance to go visit an indigenous group, and I won't say where this was at, but the chief of that indigenous, and this was overseas, asked Sherwin if he would come to one of their sacred sites and look at something, and so Sherwin agreed, and so he went, and they basically took him to this place that had a lot of brush and trees grown and things like that, but he could tell it was kind of like somewhat of a mound or a hill. And they moved a little bit of stuff out of the way, and all of a sudden there's this opening in the ground, tiny little, opening, and they just pointed at it. Oh, go in there, and he looked down. So he had crawl like this on his elbows, and it took him a while to get back in there. He got all the way back in there, and he's like, "Brian, there was a red-headed giant," and he's just like. Dead, but maybe just sleeping, like fully preserved.
Stasis, maybe
totally, like he was just sleeping, but no breath, no movement whatsoever. And he took a bunch of pictures of it, and he talked about it, several times with us. He's like, I got to find those pictures and show those people. And he never did before he crossed over. So I don't even know whatever happened to those pictures. He saw that red-headed giant, firsthand. And
wow.
Yeah.
So,
that's amazing.
We've heard about,
We've heard
them being in stasis, being discovered in stasis. The double rows of teeth, Cahokia Mounds, which was like 25 minutes from my house. They dug up a couple giant skeletons with double rows of teeth, and those newspaper articles have been scrubbed. But they were that
long time ago.
Yeah, and that's a massive site, and they less than 1% of it's been excavated. Then they stopped excavation. Why?
That's why they stopped excavating. Yeah,
and apparently
we need to preserve the historical value.
Right.
Yeah.
And then
I love it when they put a big fence around the mound and they stick an American flag on top of the mound.
Right. Yeah. To claim their territory.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's something also I'm looking forward to seeing come to light, is the true history of what happened in this nation. Like I shared something the other day of the Mount Rushmore. So it was actually the 6 or 7 grandfathers stone of I don't actually know the history, but it had Native American history. And then we come in and cover it up. And that just kind of goes hand in hand with what happened to this entire nation. And I'm excited for that true history to be revealed as we move forward. And what? Go ahead.
I was saying me too. You've probably heard of like some of the hieroglyphs and Egyptian type artifacts that have been found along the Grand Canyon type area, things like that.
Yep.
Some of these ceremonies that the Native Americans do, they say go back to Egypt. And so, we don't know how recent or long ago that time frame really is, because I'm getting more and more convinced that we've been so severely lied to in the last 100 years alone.
Yeah.
I don't know how much of whatever they've told us about history I can believe, because it's a great cover-up story to not talk about giants and not talk about advanced civilizations and advanced societies and technological things that they had. I mean, look at this. Look at the theatrics. I'm a builder, you guys. I've worked with tile and stone my whole life, and that's hard stuff to cut and polish. And when I see some of these cathedrals and megalithic structures, and it just boggles my mind how they pulled that off.
Yeah.
And so it's almost laughable that these horse and carriage guys, even here in America, were able to build some of these grandiose buildings.
Amen.
Yeah.
Chime in about that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I agree 100%. I'm in construction as well, and I get what it takes to cut a stone and set a stone and all that stuff. And even something small, sometimes it takes 4 guys to move, whatever. And this is minute. And I was in Mexico at Chichen Itza 2 years ago on the winter solstice at the pyramid site on that day. Interestingly enough, it was the only day on the whole trip that I saw chemtrails in the sky right above the pyramid crossed.
Not a coincidence.
Of course, they were, whatever they're doing. But so they have most of the site, you can't really go and touch the stuff, but they have loose stones that were they found laying there, like the whole site was just abandoned. So it was like mid-construction. A lot of these big stones are laying there, some about waist high, I don't know, about yay round. And they're probably the smallest stones on the site. Like everything's massive. And I wanted to see, like, if I could even budget, to see what it would take. And like the reality of sitting there trying to move this stone and just not being able to budget at all. Like, and then think about them building these pyramids. I don't know. It's crazy.
What was it? The Great Pyramid? They tried to build a 1/5 scale size one in Japan years ago.
I don't know.
Yeah, they tried to build it 1/5 the size, and they couldn't even do that with our modern, the best of what we have today.
And then,
so somehow they built, and when you look at how intricate that is, and how just precise, and it's aligned with the stars and everything about it.
Stone can heat up and give you a true doctoring.
Yeah.
That's how to interact with your DNA and your tissues, through just a contact and or belief and or like, wow, that, what else is it able?
Well,
exactly.
Can it levitate? Do we know how to levitate?
Well, it's all sound.
Sound levitation is real. That's
exactly
proven.
To me, that's
would
what
change the shape of the stone, or would it change shape at our request type thing? All of those.
Great points.
Exactly.
Like some of them look like they were molded. Some of them even look like they could have been 3D printed with some sort of technology. They certainly don't look like they were sculpted to that accuracy.
Yeah.
The Coral Castle, if you guys have heard of that in Florida, there's that tale where those two kids are riding their bikes and they saw the owner moving stones one time with what they called ice cream cones. And they went back and told their parents that he was moving the rocks with ice cream cones. Well, over in Africa, they found all these ice cream cone shaped stones all over the ground, and they near these circles that they can't really explain. They call them cattle herds, but they turn out to be like the cymatics of that area. They built into a stone structure. Anyway, there's I saw in Ancient Aliens, I think, of one of the hieroglyphs that show two Egyptians holding ice cream shaped tools, pointing them at a stone that's depicted hovering in the air. And you can't hardly find that image online anywhere. But I'm telling you, that's what they were doing. Whatever these stones were, these cone-shaped stones, they were an instrument, they were a technology that they were able to somehow work with the frequency of the earth and the frequency of the stone. And this is how they levitated the stone. And if this guy for the Coral Castle was privy to this concept, this technology, that's exactly how he was doing it. And I feel like that would explain a lot. And you can walk around. Michael Tillinger talks about just being able to walk around Africa and find these cone-shaped stones. And he was picking them up. And it wasn't until he accidentally tapped two of them together and it created this beautiful frequency, this tone, that he started putting it together, putting the pieces together. And it was like, wow, this is a tool. This is a technology. So.
We need to get a hold of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been learning a little bit more about like the geopolymer type stone, and that has me very intrigued as well, because I've been mixing mortars and grouts and concrete, for 5+ years as well. And that makes so much more sense too, of their ability to mold and sculpt
right,
without it necessarily being so obvious to us that that's what it is, because we use this Portland concrete, which is as straight as
right, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to shift into, like, I guess we can call new earth energies and like this shift, this transition that the planet's going through right now. Obviously things on the surface are very chaotic. We have a fake entity as our president, whatever you want to call it,
some kind of entity,
some kind of thing, posing as our president. Obviously, there's a lot of weird shit going on right now. What kind of stuff? I would just like to get your opinion, or anything that you've downloaded or tapped into about what is actually occurring right now, and what are your thoughts? What does this transition look like to you? Maybe Jen, you could start.
Sure. It's kind of interesting, because I was kind of asking myself this question a little bit already before you reached out, just kind of asking myself, what is ascension and what is evolving? And what's been coming through is that, we're super multidimensional right now, and we're crossing timelines and planes of reality a lot faster. So the veil is definitely thinner right now. And so, there's a lot turning on for a lot of people. We're seeing a lot of people waking up and having spiritual experiences, and it's kind of shocking because it's so sudden and so profound. And so I'm seeing a lot more people coming around saying, hey, what do I do with this? I feel like I'm going crazy. So I'm seeing that a lot more. But in terms of like the earth energies and that thing, it's leading me to the concept of the micro and the macro. So as people are waking up more and more and more, and as we who have been kind of awake or whatever, and we're doing our work, we're raising our vibrational frequencies. And so the same thing is happening with the earth. And it's very, like we talked about a little bit earlier, with it being a little bit symbiotic. So as the earth is raising the frequency, we have to raise our frequency as well. Mm-hmm. And the way it's happening is that we're getting a lot of energy blasting us from the sun, as we're witnessing with the Schumann resonance. So all of this photon energy is, like we're in this photon belt, and it's there to assist us in our ascension, in our awakening, in reactivating our DNA, our remembrances. And the same thing is happening with Mother Earth. That is what I'm getting. And so, we get choice points a lot faster. It's like something happens and we have to decide right now what we're going to do with it. And if we don't, we're going to get tumbled along in the wave, and kind of lose track a little bit. So I don't know where this is leading me, other than that's sort of just a new awareness for me. So it's really important that we continue to look at each trigger, each experience, and continue to do that in our work that helps us, to stay more grounded and more neutral in our emotional bodies, and go to those places where we find joy, because the joy is the highest frequency. And so when we're doing that, we can ride through the frequencies, that the chaos in the collective, so to speak, a little bit easier. But then it's also helping the ascension of Mother Earth. And, like all the star beings out there, they're all doing this. And so, it's like, I'm so excited to see where it all goes, because, we may very well have much different contact when we have an experience such as what Brian has, where we're more comfortable and ready. And so I don't know, I was just kind of rambling there, but
that's beautiful. And you mentioned something about, the decisions that we're faced with. We have to make a decision. And I heard just recently, I think it was even from Jackie Chan or something I was watching, but he was telling like advice from his father. And he was like, every decision you make adds up. Every little decision adds up. So, and be conscious of every decision you make throughout your day, whatever that is, what you do first thing in the morning, what you eat, what you watch, whatever. We don't have the luxury to misuse our energy right now, because if you do something that's not in resonance with your path, you're going to pay for it. You're going to feel the physical effects of it. Shit might start going wrong in your life, with your house, with your car. The universe is going to tell you, hey, something you're doing isn't right. So I think it's very crucial what you brought up about those decisions in that moment. Like, pay attention to the daily decisions that you make, and that can really help navigate these times, I think. But go ahead, Brian. I know you were going to add to that.
Oh yeah, no, it brings up a lot of things, but I like the direction you took it, and I was just gonna add that with it being so crazy out there, it has made me want to just spend more time focusing on me being happier, and making sure that we're taking care of each other and our home and our family. And because that's priority one. We all want to see big changes, good changes in the world. We want to see somebody either that is somebody we can really relate to and or get behind. If there's a need for a leadership type position, like bumbling doofus and in the office right now.
Is that Chief Mumbling Doofus? Is that his name?
Oh yeah. It's a great clown name for him, right there. But, it's like it's so in our face that the world is so clowned up, and they're using this reverse logic, and and it's so obvious to so many of us that they're doing that. But it's also really disturbing to see how many people are drinking that up and aren't understanding that that's going on either. So, we got to be patient with each other. Everything is definitely a reflection of how much more do we need to find compassion in new areas and new ways of forgiving ourselves, being inadequate or just not knowing. And just a crescendo, I guess, anything I'm saying with any of that, most valuable takeaway that I had was that it really sank into how much the now is a very, very sacred moment. And so I didn't understand what sacredness meant growing up as, white America, farm town, small town. we didn't, I would have guessed it was religious or something, but to me, the learning that something is so sacred every moment. And so every choice does matter. If you need to dig a hole and you don't have a shovel, you still need to get that hole dug. So a shovel is life-changing for you in that moment. It's altered your reality. In this day and age, we take that shovel, we dig the hole, and we pitch the shovel over our shoulder. We need the shovel later. We can't even find the thing because we didn't say, wow, thank you. Changing my reality and making this easy for me. Cleaning that shovel up, taking care of it, putting it back in a place you're gonna find it because it's gonna be useful again.
Yes.
That's part of like slowing things down in this reality, getting back to nature. Yeah, we need to go say hi to the trees and the birds and the animals, but we just need to go out and listen because they're, like you said, they're trying to talk to us. They really are.
Yeah.
And it just takes taking the time to breathe, get quiet, and just listen. So many of us are full of noise, all this chatter. Just get quiet and listen. That's using what'll come in,
Right. And
those are sacred moments.
Yes.
Absolutely beautifully said.
Beautifully said.
And I couldn't agree more. That's something I've been doing as of late, very recently, is focusing more on being present. And because I'm a thinker, I'm always in my head, and it takes a lot for me to calm my mind. But I'm finding it to be a lot easier if I'm focusing on every day, just being in the present, every moment, and stop. Because the definition of anxiety is worrying about the future, right? So you can just eliminate that if you consciously remind yourself to be present. And that's been helping me tremendously.
Awesome.
I do want to touch on the ceremonies a little bit, just because I think they're extremely important. They're not done enough. We had that amazing sighting when we did one in Florida. How would you recommend people who are listening, if they wanted to start doing their own ceremonies on these certain dates and astrological alignments and stuff, just kind of explain the importance of the ceremony and what it involves and what the actual goal is that you're trying to achieve with that? Because it's so easy just to say, yeah, do a ceremony, but what does that mean?
Well, gosh, ceremony can be interpreted in so many different ways because, there's ceremonies that are held all over the world and they're all different. And so, very simply though, each day of our life can be a ceremony. When Brian was talking about the sacredness, we can bring consciousness to our day and make it a ceremony because, like an example is somebody will reach out and they're like, I'm in trouble and I need help. Can you please pray for me? And the response would be, yeah, I'll pray for you tonight when I'm home. Well, okay, so why wait until later to pray? So kind of breaking down the programming a little bit around, because we're still very 3D beings, but prayer and, it can be done simultaneously just through consciousness. So it's focused intent. So I can take a moment and just close my eyes, drop in, connect, to whomever I need to connect to in the moment for that help and just ask, please come help my sister. Please bring her what she needs. Bring her some relief, some clarity, the help, good help. What does she need? Please make that obvious to her, and just having a conversation that takes maybe, a minute. We can do that so much more throughout our day and do it for ourselves too. Just having an intention to start your day can change how your whole day plays out for you. Right. And it can impact your mood. It can impact who comes into your physical field. It can impact a direction or a choice that you need to make. So, I just invite everybody to have more consciousness around just making your day a sacred day. No matter what you're doing, I'm a paralegal by day and I bring my consciousness to that work. And, I see people struggling. I do divorce law. So I see children that are just going through amazing, ridiculous situations. that they didn't choose necessarily. And so like I have to stop, drop, and pray sometimes because it's so intense. So I bring that to my day. But then in terms of ceremony, we were so blessed and so gifted to have so much time learning from a Dakota chief about ceremony, about sweat lodge, about Sundance. There's all these different types of ceremonies. We are, again, blessed because we have another friend who is hosting Sundance, and it is an all nations altar Sundance. And he's very excited to bring, anybody that's interested in learning. He's excited to have more people come so he can share, because, these teachings will go away if nobody is teaching them. And so anybody that's eager to know and has an open heart and wants to sit and listen and learn and experience, that door is open, and you can reach out to us and we can tell you more about that. Another aspect of ceremony is, myself, I do ceremony every month, you could say, honoring the moon cycles with the star knowledge. And I have a podcast now where I talk about all the different energies that we're working with each moon cycle. So my podcast is called Moons of Ascension, and it's just a little mini teaching that talks about ways that you can work with what's present for us in this moment. Like we talked about it being the bare moon and what it's doing. It's opening the gates of the mind. So I need to face my biggest challenge, so I'm going to call in the bear and make a ceremony out of that. And it can be a meditation, it can be in nature on a walk. It can be, sitting in front of an altar with a candle. There's so many ways to do ceremony, and it really just comes down to bringing focused intent in a really sacred way. And it can be very simple.
Man, you had that answer ready to go.
Yeah, that was amazing. Yes.
That was perfect. And that's exactly what I was wanting to hear out of that, because you explained it perfectly for anyone who's curious or confused on what to do and how to pursue that. It reminds me the samurai. If you know anything about the Japanese samurai, their way of life, everything was done with purpose. Even if it was ladling out water out of a bucket, they would set the ladle down. Everything was done slow with purpose, and that was their way of life. And that kind of reminds me, like Brian, what you were saying with the shovel and just what you were talking about, Jen. It's absolutely crucial, I think, to be aware of that stuff throughout your day. And I think it can really legitimately change your life.
And so what I wanted to just maybe touch on a little bit about folks wanting to maybe tap in, and great questions, by the way, Tyler. I think they're really great questions, and trying to make it relative to the audience, not just being, a fantastical, interesting tales, but
Right.
'cause Jen and I want to be able to help anybody that's wanting to do something more sacred in their life, and so just finding ways to do a ceremony, and just the intention alone, it creates that energy. Okay, so when Chief had encouraged me to start learning these songs, and Brian, the people need these songs, started to really put my heart into it, and that's when my voice came. That's when I was able to actually start, like, this voice was coming out that never had before. And so that was always a big fueling factor with my ever going to any ceremony. After that, I just realized, just show up in your heart, not in your head. We all want to know how this is working and how to do it and that kind of stuff. And that's just it. The way spirits come and work with you is when you're really in your heart. And that heart frequency is very attractive to any higher frequency being. It only makes sense. We get caught up in our thoughts. We're just vibing low. And so when we're really elevated, we're in that heart element, we've shown up to Sundance to serve. And even though we're tired, we're going to get up. It was like a reward of showing up. But it's not every time. I think just the sincerity, when you're really just in your heart, is when you're going to get those highest experiences. And so if you want to call in the star beings, just be open to the fact that they're there, whether or not they're going to show themselves to you. I was disappointed many a times in the beginning when we went out to look. I was ready for some big grandiose experience to show up. I never did. And I had to let that go and realize, wait a minute, this isn't about being entertained. This isn't a show. This isn't some kind of just so that we have some cool things to talk about. You know, we're gonna get a new piece every chance that we, you know, every time that we're stepping into that sincerity. That's my feeling. You're really just doing it, and you're doing it to do the best that you can. And
right. And that is such a great, really good point. And, you know, when we're in our sincerity, things happen quickly. Things click into place faster and effortlessly. So you'll know, you know, you'll see a challenge or a difference, you know, whether you're in your head or in your heart, the direction things go and how it feels. So, you know, that conscious reminder again, you know, it just takes practice. You know, if it's not something you're used to doing, you know, learn some meditations or something on YouTube. I mean, there's so many resources out there, but just simply to sit, close your eyes, breathe, and feel yourself connecting with Mother Earth, and then feeling your crown open and connecting to the heart of Creator. It takes about 3 breaths and you're connected. And then, you know, that allows you to be more in that heart-centered space to make that prayer or to make that question, you know?
Yes. Yeah.
So,
and I know you're right, because an orb just flew past you. It just flew down in front of you.
And I didn't see it.
Well, yeah, sometimes you don't. It's funny. That happens fairly often when we record. No, amen to all that. And I love, Brian, what you said about, you know, it's not about being entertained and having a cool story to tell. And that's exactly that. That is on point, because how many people want to have that sighting just so they can tell that story and feed their ego? Great point. I love that. I love what you guys both said. Yeah.
I loved sharing the story of that giant ship that I saw at Sundance, because it was so incredible, but I can't tell you how frustrating it is to also see that, and you're the only one who saw it, and you're surrounded with people that are open to that and have seen things, but they weren't there to share the experience, so you could at least have that collaboration and see, really, you know, but
well,
you know.
and two, because this happens a lot where one person has an experience and it is just for them,
right?
You know, and it's perfect, you know. As much as I wanted to see it, I didn't get to, but I understand that was for Brian,
right? So. And everyone's doing different work here on this planet, and even astrally at night in dream space. Who knows what's happening when we leave our body? Where we're going, school, training, we're on mission, whatever we're doing, we're not, you know, the physical body is just one aspect of what we're doing. So maybe whatever Brian's doing at night in the astral, those sightings pertain to him because he's on a different mission, and your mission might look different, and you're here for a different reason. So everyone is going to have their own individual experience, and sometimes it only is meant for you. I truly believe that. One last,
we can't all share and carry the same gifts. It's important that, because we're all individuals, and like you say, we have a different signature journey to the truth, you know, our own truth. And I mean, that's just great comments, and really appreciate you guys.
Thank you. We appreciate you guys too. And one last thing before we wrap this up, I want to hear your thoughts on Sasquatch and any experiences you may have had with them, or how they show up also in these teachings.
Yeah, they're a big part of our teachings with Star Knowledge. They actually work with an energy called spiritual protection of family, and they work with the spider. And you know, they come a lot of times in dreams. But we did have a really amazing experience not too long ago visiting a very, very beautiful sacred space in Georgia. And we were kind of on a walk, a nature walk, and we came into this like area where it looked like very intentional fence was built out of these logs out in the middle of the forest. But it was just a space, probably, 30 by 30 space with these, logs set up in a certain way that made it look like, okay, this is a very sacred space here.
Not man-made looking.
Yeah.
Like nature made it, but it's like
but a little too perfect.
Yeah, too perfect to be accidental.
Yeah. And so we were all like, wow, this is really something. And, I just was like feeling this very intense energy. And I was like, I offered tobacco. I prayed with it. And I just had a conversation real quick, just saying, hey, I'm Jen. I'm here. I don't mean to disrupt your energy or your area here. I come in a good way. I just want to be here and appreciate the beauty here and pray for you and understand what we might find here. And so right away, it was just like, this is a Sasquatch family's home. And they're very, very clearly said, we don't want you coming into our home. And I said, got it, understood, thank you. And so a couple of us in the group continued to kind of like venture a little bit closer. Well, I heard a little like whistle behind me. It was like a chirping whistle. And it was like, okay, that's your second warning. Time for you to move on. And so I'm like, all right, guys, we got to go. They don't want us here. This isn't for us to be here. And so we started making our way out. And I heard this glorious, like, bird chirping, like saying, thank you. Thank you for honoring that you asked. And we told you what we would appreciate and you honored it. And so that was a really profound experience for me, because you could smell the smell. They have a very strong smell.
Yeah.
And they know how to communicate in various ways. And so it's beautiful. Yeah. About that much.
No, they've shown up like the birds chirping, a couple times at nighttime. All of a sudden, and just in the dead of night, all of a sudden there's like these birds chirping out of the bushes or something like that, and the birds all of a sudden awake over there, and then you like think a little bit, and you're like, oh, wait a minute, that's all right. It's kind of their dental way of like letting you know they're around.
Yeah,
because they don't want to scare us, they don't want to startle us. They are high vibrational beings. They don't want us in fear. We're so fearful. There's so many people that carry that fear vibration. It's such a low vibration. They don't want anything to do with it because their intention is to help and be there, like with us, helping along the way. So if we're carrying any sense of fear, they just can't be around.
Yeah, and they want us to purify. Like they want us to be purified, so they can come be with us. And so, they say, spend a day in the waterfall or in the water and purify for a day, and we will come see you. Spend a day in the desert and purify, and we will come see you. Yeah, the sun.
Or a day on your phone. No.
That's the opposite.
I don't think that was part of the teaching.
I'm joking.
That is a specific fast for the Bigfoot, and Chief talked about that. And if folks are serious, they say, okay, well, you go do these things. You four different fasts.
So in the earth, in the sun, in the desert.
Yeah.
In the water.
And then on the hill and the wind. So the water to cleanse you, the sun to cleanse you, the earth to cleanse you, and then the winds.
And then
that's beautiful.
And then they will consider.
And
then
maybe,
But they want to see us put the work out there. Like I said, everybody wants to be entertained. Another great story. It takes the sacredness out of it, though, if you haven't kind of had to work for it or be discouraged and still keep coming to it.
Well, and you can't appreciate it if you just, I don't know, you don't appreciate things if you don't earn it or work for it. And I'm not saying you have to earn it. Like, I actually got a lot of heat from our last episode. We were talking about technology, and I made a comment about saying, we have to be ready for it. We have to earn it. And what I meant, maybe that wasn't the best way to word it, but what I meant is, like, if they just handed us over all this free energy technology right now, if with the power structure the way it is, the powers that be would still take it and abuse it and, utilize it with greed. And then it would be unaffordable. People wouldn't be able to use it, and no one would be able to utilize it, right? Until our collective consciousness is mature enough to appreciate this technology and use it for good, and the negative energy is mostly cleared off this planet, then we're going to be able to receive this technology, I think, as opposed to just being handed to us right now with the way things are. It's not going to be used how we want it to be used. That's what I was trying to say. And the same thing with the sighting or an experience like that. When you put in the work and you show that you're ready for it, then you're going to have that experience.
I love that. That's awesome, Tyler. Yeah. Because I agree with you totally. Like,
right.
We're just,
Well, a lot of people are like, no, we deserve it right now. They've been lying to us. We need that right now. I'm like,
which there's truth in that. Yes, obviously.
I know, we're like little kids crying for that toy, or we think it's a toy that and dad just brought home a sword, and it's cut your finger off, and kid wants to play with it, and dad's like, no way, and and it's like, we throw a fit. We think we're ready for this stuff. Well, like I say, as much as I've seen to experience that ship, it's like, maybe we're not ready for this big divine showing of beings that we're not familiar with.
Right. Well, that's just it. Like, do we deserve it? Yes. Do we deserve the truth? And do we deserve the stuff that's readily available on this planet that's being suppressed? Yes, we deserve it. But if it's just handed to us right now in the state that we are, it's not going to, I just don't see it working out the way we want it to look.
Here's what I want to say about that. The main thing that needs to happen is, because right now and for a long time, we've been so manipulated and poisoned and suppressed and just everything else on so many levels that it's like, and we're born into that. And then it's like, and then we're taught lies, and it's like, but then again, growth happens through, a lot of these things and struggle. And, but that structure needs to change. Like, we need a planet that we are free to live without all of that, like without, because right now there's this evil, structure that's just, raping and pillaging the planet and keeping us so suppressed and lied to. And, but that is going away. And that's part of, the ascension that's happening is naturally bringing that about, because it's bringing truth to the surface, it's bringing everything to light. So now we can all see what has been more hidden for so long. It's like in our faces, and that's forcing us to wake up and take our power back that we've given away unconsciously. It's almost like our consciousness is raising, but it's first we're in this hard suffering turmoil phase, chaotic phase, because it's like we were unconscious before, not realizing we're giving our power away. We're completely living in ego. We're destroying ourselves and the planet and the people around us and blah, blah, blah. So it's like, we're waking up to like realize we're doing that. Realize, what the system we've been in is not serving us or the planet. And then it's like allowing us to make a choice to say, this is what I actually want. This is how I'm going to live my life. And then when we can get to a consciousness level where we have self-responsibility and sovereignty, true sovereignty, that's when we're ready for like these really advanced technologies that we're not going to use to destroy each other on the planet, But
exactly.
There's a lot of people on the planet that would absolutely do that, unfortunately, so it's.
And I liked that you said the self-responsibility, because that was coming up for me. Like, personal responsibility is so crucial.
Yeah.
We all want an easy button. We all want to figure out how to, have this free energy. And it'll just change everything and make it all better and perfect again. But will it? Like, we don't even fully understand yet.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're consciously or unconsciously creating. So what are we going to do with a device that we have no idea how it works?
Yeah, we'll throw it over our shoulder just like that
another
shovel.
Atlantis event, you know?
Right.
Exactly.
Unless we learn that sacredness.
Yeah.
If we learn the sacredness of that, that's the difference, you know?
Yes.
Because it gives us a whole sense of value around something. And it's one of the things that we've had to do a lot of alchemy with the condition of the world, right? And how much time and effort we can find ourselves putting into, all right, I want to see what the mainstream media is saying. I want to see what the alternative media is saying. I want to hear what they're saying in ceremony and what spirit's saying. I want to meditate and see what my guides are saying. And gosh, I mean, holy cow. I think about how much time and energy and effort I've spent in the last 12, 13 years. It's astounding. Now, this whole new veil's opened up, and I'm grateful for it, but had I not had the squeeze of this world looking grim, I could have just kept going in my obliviousness, not really thinking there was an urgency or need to change much. You know, if we're being bad taken care of and handheld, and I think that's the truth, is we do need to be brought to a new level of appreciation and treating things as a good steward, this planet, all the life forms around us, just having the respect of acknowledging everything, every person, every being has its own sacred, just like we do. You know, when you go up to a tree, you know, that you want to just snap a dead branch off because you're making a fire or something like that, maybe pause, recognize that it's a relative that has this dead branch. Maybe even ask or offer a little tobacco. See what happens. Start changing your approach to the things around you.
Right.
Yes.
Amen to that. And
yes.
I agree. If we don't appreciate, be grateful, and I guess you could say earn whatever this respect and even this technology and these experiences, we're going to see the repeat of the fall of Atlantis. You know, everything's just going to be abused again, and people are still in their ego, and that needs to change before we can truly get to where we want to go. And it's going to happen day by day, step by step. Nobody knows what it's going to look like, but all I know, and what you said earlier, is you can be present and you can work on your happiness and focus on what it means and what it looks like for you to become the best version of yourself to make it through these times. And the end.
Yeah. Be sincere. Be sincere in your walk.
Yes.
Right. Well, guys, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
This has been amazing. Can you please share, if you have anything you want to share, how people can contact you, if you have anything coming up or your podcast, whatever?
Sure. Yeah, you can find me and Brian on starknowledge.org for more information about following the symbols and the star knowledge. And I also have a website called Eden Arising. You can find more information about some of the work that we do for consciousness and ascension work called shadow work. And I'm excited to launch a 13-month kind of cosmic field trip journey. We are going to start a new cycle with the Earth Star Calendar Walk in November. So it's most likely going to be all free online, but it's a way to just work with these moon influences, consciously calling upon the energy and the influence that's coming in for that cycle. And it's going to be a lot of fun. You're going to get a lot of tools for how to navigate the energies and give you some fun things to think about, and hopefully have some takeaways, just deeper knowing and more self-love.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And we'll put the link below also. So, Brian, did you want to add anything before we wrap this up?
You know, I don't really have a platform where I'm putting myself out there per se. You know, we get invited to come around and drum and sing. I don't claim to have anything all that special other than just some really, you know, amazing experiences. And I'm always happy to share my heart if it's inspiring to folks. And and helps them, encourage them along on their journey. So, but I'm happy to be here. And if anybody does have questions, they can get a hold and find me through it.
Beautiful.
That way.
Well, thank you so much. I really enjoyed this. We covered a lot of good stuff, I think. So keep doing what you're doing. We really appreciate it. And we'll do our best to keep passing on this star knowledge so it doesn't get forgotten. And anyone listening, if you feel compelled, share this, and we need this information. More and more people need to understand what we're capable of and what's possible. So thank you for tuning in. We love you guys. We can't do this without you. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. You guys do amazing work, and we really appreciate what you do. And thank you for your gifts and sharing your gifts with people. That's what we're all here to do. So.
Right. Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, good night, everybody. We love you. Have a great evening, and we will see you next time.
Night.